Well, hello everyone, and welcome to The Basics of Life. My name is Ken Burkey, and you know, our most highly watched shows is our shows with Lanise Hargett. Lanise, it's amazing. I mean, everybody stops what they're doing, and Lanise is on TV.
You're a comedian.
No, Lanise is very humble, but she does great shows. These are great topics, and a lot of it has to do with parenting and children and child development, and that's what you do at Green Valley, and you help so many people, and you're definitely passionate about this.
I am.
So let's jump into this. We're going to talk about giving praise to your children.
The effects of praise on your kids.
The effects of praise on your kids. Now, my first guess would be this is a good thing?
It's a great thing.
Okay, all right, good. I'm so far so good.
So far so great.
So why the topic, and what about this? Why is it so important?
Well, first of all, most of the information that I gather is from a website called Parenting Science. And I enjoy the website because it just takes statistics and different tests and things that they're doing with children, and it actually is like based on research. So I enjoy it very much.
Yeah.
And so if you're interested in knowing more about anything we talk about, you can pretty much always find it on a website called Parenting Science.
ParentingScience.com.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What's interesting about praise, and as I was reading this article on praising your kids, what we all know from parenting is that positive reinforcement works. So when we start with children, when they're very small babies and they're eating their food and we say, good job, what we know is that they continue to do whatever they're doing positively and do it better. But what was interesting in the article is in the different cultures around the world, what we see is parents that don't give their children positive reinforcement and don't necessarily praise them all the time, and their children are high performers. And so what we know is that they're not doing a ton of positive reinforcement, but yet their children are achieving far more than the average American child is doing. So when the researchers were looking at it, they were questioning, does praise affect the performance of children? And the bottom line is, yes, you can overpraise your children. And so I just thought it was really interesting as I was reading the article and looking at it just from my own practical standpoint, what different cultures do and what they're concerned with. And the number one concern is that their children's ego will become too high. And so they would never want their children to think more highly of themselves than they should. They want to have, actually in their cultures, they're very humble people. Right. So I was just looking at it and studying it and thinking about the kids that I serve, my own children, and thinking, you know what, based upon this research, is that practical for what we're doing right now in our culture? And I thought, you know what, yes. And so some of the ideas that they were talking about is that when you praise your children, are you praising your kids for something that they should be doing anyway?
Okay.
So like for us, you know, we think, oh, I brushed my teeth. Do I really need praise for that? That's like an expected thing to do. And I was thinking about my own kids, and when my kids were growing up, you praise them for good behavior. But at some point, parents should get to the point where they expect good behavior. Right. You're not getting a treat for doing what you're supposed to be doing, nor are you going to be getting a good job. That's a good job for just doing what's normal. So I was just thinking about children and parents that I watch right now. I had a very good friend who had a 2-year-old, and which, you know, a 2-year-old is a very young child, just formulating language, just learning to obey. And she would say, okay, get up in your car seat and get in. And he would actually get in his own car seat, crawl into the back seat, struggle to get there, get in his own car seat, and then buckle himself in. And I was like, Megan, that is phenomenal. And you're not even like, Cole, good job. Way to go. She's like, no, I know he can do it. It's a struggle, but I'm expecting him to do it. And that's just normal behavior now.
So 2 questions here. So when we overpraise, what does that do? And then also, obviously, we can underpraise. So when is praising the right thing to do?
Well, praising for the right thing to do is when you're trying to teach your child a task that they are not conquering yet.
Okay.
So, for example, it doesn't matter what they're doing, whether they're shooting basketball hoops or whether they're getting in their own car seat or,
whatever it is.
Whatever
right,
it is, brushing their teeth.
But they can't, they're not skilled yet to do this.
They're not skilled, and so you're teaching them how to do it. You are actually encouraging them on this journey to be able to perform in a task. So when they actually do, when you're encouraging them and saying, okay, you almost got the basket, keep going, you were super strong, that is when it's positive.
Okay.
And not only that, but you're being really specific on what they're doing. You're praising the very specific things that they're working on. So, for example, when you teach a child to, for example, just any kind of sports,
right.
Keep your eye on the ball. You're going to have to shoot a little harder. You're going to have to look at the basket. When they actually do those things and say, that time you did better because you watched the ball. You kept your eyes open. Yeah. Then actually they're having positive reinforcement on something very, very specific. Mm-hmm. And then when they actually, do the task, then they're like, oh, okay, this is what it looks like. This is how it feels. Mm-hmm. But after they do it a certain amount of times, if you continue to say to, a pro baseball player, hey, good job for keeping your eye on the ball.
Right.
When that's just expected that you keep your eye on the ball, what it comes across as is insincere and manipulative. Mm-hmm. And kids know that.
Right.
They see when their parents are trying to manipulate them into continuing to do something that they love them doing.
Right.
So when you see the detriment of it, what you'll see, and the statistics showed, which was crazy to me, is that if you continue to give positive reinforcement or praise to a child to do something they have conquered, and that should be expected of them, actually what happens is they stop doing it.
Wow.
As opposed to just doing it just by nature.
Mm-hmm.
Because,
that's interesting.
Yeah, because what you see, and if you think it through, children, whether it's a child or an adult, if somebody's continually bringing to your awareness something good that you're doing, and it's like, you start paying attention to it, well, then you start questioning, well, maybe I shouldn't be doing it.
Right.
And so in children...
like you said, it can be patronizing.
Exactly.
Let me throw something else, and I don't know if statistics show this, but it can also become addicting.
Yes.
I've known people who... they need way too many compliments. I mean, we all love a compliment. We all love a praise, but when it becomes, I did something and you didn't give me praise, it can become kind of that too, dysfunctional.
Yes, and it goes back to other cultures. Ego is inflated, which is what parents don't want in other cultures. In our culture, it seems like a big ego sometimes is the norm.
Right.
Where we do get so much positive reinforcement. We do, certain parents just lavish praise on their children, and we observe them and say, oh, brother, life is just about them.
Right.
They have no context, and you look back and you think, oh my goodness, their foundation was based upon this lavish praise, like you are just so exceptional. And what is so sad is when children are raised like that and you see adults that just, it's never enough.
Right.
What you know is inside, they know they're incompetent. Mm-hmm. We all know that we're not completely successful at everything.
Right.
So then we actually just feel worse about ourselves because we know that it's a lie. Yeah. We're living a lie. We know that we're not good at everything, but we're expecting it all the time. So it's really, we go back to God and how God treats us. Every time we're obedient, we don't get prizes just because we obey. God isn't wired that way. He has just expectations.
Yeah, I didn't get a gold star yesterday.
You didn't.
No, even though I did pretty good yesterday, I didn't get the gold star.
No gold star. But that's the thing, is that if you're wired and you're trained, that when you don't get the gold star, that doesn't mean that you're going to stop performing.
Well, no, and I think that goes back to, high maintenance. When you're working with high maintenance people, a lot of that has to do with that. It's like again, we all want praise. We all want good job. But it gets to a point where, whoa, it's debilitating. It
is. And if we look at children, their temperaments are also different. Yeah. Certain children just need more attention than other children. Mm-hmm. Some children are completely content without an enormous amount of attention. Yeah. I know in my 3 children, they're all completely different. I had one child that just demanded an enormous amount of attention and praise. But I knew as a mom I realized, and there was that check in my spirit all the time, just like other cultures, this isn't good for you.
Right.
There are other people here. There's more than just you in this family that need attention. You don't get all the attention. And it became a joke when he was a very small child. Like, you know what, Cole? You have gotten enough attention today, and it's over. You're not getting any more of my attention. There's other children in the room that need my attention, and you're not getting it.
Yeah.
And, you know, we talk about God and how he's infinite and he has all the attention in the world. And at times, where are we as humans? We're like, where is God? Where is God? Where is God? We can't find him. We can't see him. We can't feel his presence in our life. And you know what? God in his sovereignty knows that there are times when he never pulls away from us. Right. He's always present with us, but he will be silent for a while. And what does that do to us? That makes us seek him more, more and more and more. And so, you know, I'm not going to profess that I have it all. I don't understand this whole concept. Yeah. But I do know with kids, it's interesting how, just like with us, when we pull away from our kids and, you know, we don't praise them as far as their on the basketball court or with their grades or with their behavior, you kind of go into this silent mode. You can see children performing more and more and more like, hey, where are you? Are you going to pay attention to me?
Right. It's interesting.
It's very interesting.
So let me go a little side note here. What about, because there's another destructive side, too much praise, but what about the negativity culture that we live in, where I think I've given this example before, but trying to force our kids to be what we want them to be. And so the classic example was I was in a coffee shop and the kids standing there trying to pick out their lunch. And instead of saying, obviously the kid was having trouble figuring out what to pick, and so the negative was, well, you can never decide. You can never decide. Rather than, you know what, the positive side of that is this child was particular. They were trying to fit. There's a positive attribute to that too. So I think you're right. I think we live in an overpraise society, and we also live in a very negative society too. Right. Where that can be just as destructive, don't you think?
Oh, totally. And if you just go back to your example, if you will focus on your child's character as opposed to their performance, what you could say in that situation is, you know what? I know you're smart. I know that you struggle with making choices. It's okay, but it's not like having a hard time making a choice is not a character flaw.
Right.
So when you focus on their character, like, I know you're a good child. That's a given. I know that you're obedient. I know that you're honest. I know that eventually you will learn how to make a choice. If you focus on those characters as opposed to performance, then you create this amazing foundation of confidence. That the child can blow it or not even do well, and he knows within himself he's good because you have focused as a parent on who he is as a person, who God thinks he is, not on actually how much he performs.
Right, and that's a form of praise right there, but that's a positive kind of praise. The problem as parents, I mean, again, we all just get impatient and we're moving on and we have stuff to do and we forget those are very teachable moments.
Yes, very teachable.
Because if you hear enough times, you can never make a decision. Oh, and then that becomes who you are, and it can actually kind of paralyze. And those words don't go away.
They don't.
Very quickly.
They really don't. And I think going back to the positive praise, you know, when you focus on, like, for example, if your child is going to the store and you notice that he's struggling with putting the candy in his pocket and stealing, and you focus on, I know you're an honest child, not like, oh, I saw you were struggling with stealing. It's the same concept. It's honesty is the core value that you're working on. What you choose to focus on is either the positive or the negative. If you speak into your child's life, if you speak into them, I know you're good by nature, and you really believe that, the child is going to grow up, especially if you start when they're super young, before 5. If you can get that foundation right, like where your child knows that they are not perfect, but they're good, then their next part of their life is totally launched on a positive approach for success.
You know, I think it's interesting, too, because there is that slippery slope of, I'm just thinking as a parent, of you can overpraise, obviously, but I think there's a great praise you can give to your kid when your kid goes, hey, didn't you notice what I did? Didn't you know? And you can say, well, yeah,
of course,
that's who you are.
Yes,
you're great. Why?
Exactly.
That's almost a bigger praise.
Yes.
Because all of a sudden they go, oh wow, they think that's who I am already. So.
Already.
Right.
You go back to the example of the 2-year-old getting in the car seat. If the mom were to say all the time, you're amazing, you can buckle yourself in the car seat, that's praise based upon inaction.
Yeah.
If you go back to the core value of you are a super responsible child, and just those words alone will carry him through in every single task that he does. That's a 2-year-old. You're teaching words like responsibility. It's in everything that I am capable to do, I can be responsible. So then that'll carry him through, as opposed to just task-oriented children like, oh, I can buckle my car seat, I can put my bike away, I can take out the trash. If they're raised with these, if you're focusing and doing the positive reinforcement on values as opposed to, and character qualities as opposed to tasks, oh my goodness. Children then grow up thinking I can do anything.
Yeah, and I think this actually fits with the way we praise one another as adults. Too.
Yes, yes.
Especially when you're in leadership positions, and praise can feel really shallow sometimes if it's always based on production.
Yes.
It's always based on performance.
Exactly.
But I don't know if you can ever get enough praise when somebody's praising your character and praising
totally
your motives and those kind of things.
Yes.
Those are powerful, but when it's always the performance, then that's a slippery slope.
It really is. And if you just as a person learn to focus on character qualities and values in people as opposed to performance, it definitely deepens relationships, and it helps you advocate and be for other people. So, for example, even in adulthood, if we focus on our character, we hear somebody talking trash behind our back, we can say, well, he may not have performed well, but I know that he's super responsible based upon my experiences with him.
Right.
Or I know he's by nature a kind person.
Right.
If he wasn't kind that time, that isn't his overall character.
Right.
So, it really is a principle that works through adulthood as well. You're so right.
Yeah, because I was thinking that's kind of how God praises us. He doesn't praise us for our performances because we're all over the map.
Exactly.
But, he chose us just because of who we are, not because of what we do.
Yes.
And that's a really cool feeling.
It really is. And we know the outcome is positive. I mean, even we think, oh, I obey, I do good, and it doesn't seem like I'm getting any reward back. But we know even with God, at some point, your goodness is going to seriously pay off.
Yeah.
We know that.
Yeah.
It's like, and it's the same with our children. It's not that our children, stop obeying because we're not praising them every single time.
Right.
They know eventually that's all going to catch up.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's a fascinating topic, and it's a great. You always bring great stuff. What's the website again?
It's parentingscience.com.
And I always like that you say that when science is always catching up with God.
Oh, I love that part of it.
Yeah,
it's so great.
It's all the same.
It is.
Yeah.
God's so much smarter than us. We're just having a hard time catching it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think too. Again, to end this, just the praise on somebody's value and how important they are is so much better than the praise of performance.
Exactly.
That's a slippery slope. It doesn't, it doesn't fulfill really what our kids need.
It really doesn't. It really doesn't, and it doesn't for us as well.
Right.
It doesn't as well for us.
Cool. Good deal.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know what? I was listening so intently, I didn't smile enough on this show. So I feel bad, but you did. Lanise, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, the studio audience is mesmerized right now. So thanks for always bringing important stuff. And again, for parents, you're our heroes.
Yes.
I mean, there's no more important job, more intense job, more right in the moment kind of job.
Yes.
It's a job you can't put off till tomorrow kind of thing. If you need any help, any support, just call Green Valley and we'll connect you. We have single parenting classes. We have mothers of preschoolers classes, MOPS. We have great kids programs to help supplement,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
your parenting and things. So call the church, call Lanise,
Yes.
and she'll direct you in the right way.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time on The Basics of Life.